And I think the only reason we're so good at that is because I think we've probably done more properties than anyone on the planet.
Do this, and this is going to give you a 5 to 7 year run before you probably have to do anything else. And you can make a lot of money in 5 to 7 years.
So the first thing that you got to realize is you're telling a story with your listing.
It's pretty obvious that when I look in a market, I can see Vodyssey properties.
It sounds like so stupid to say this, but
we forgot about the business we were really in, which is the experience business.
All of these highly thematic homes book for $6,000, $10,000 a night, and they're booked out for years.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with our Experts Corner. You guys know we do shows within the show every Monday. Starting January in 2025, we started doing Experts Corner, and we've got today our expert designer, one of my best friends, really come to love and appreciate this gentleman who I've got on today. Can't believe how when we talk about creating experiences and designing for short-term rentals, there's nobody better in the business. We've got Mr. Mike Whitfield from Wind Development joining us today. And Mike, I'm excited about this conversation. I told you before we hit record, the hardest part about this is there's no possible way we can cover what I want to cover about short-term rental design, telling a story, casting that vision, and really creating that experience in one episode. So this is going to be part one of multiple parts today. But first and foremost, thanks for joining me, brother.
Well, it's funny. We've talked about for years, right? Getting on your podcast, and it's really interesting. We've just never done it because either A, I'm always working with a Vodyssey client 24/7 somewhere out in the world. And I think B, we've spent years, you and I, refining a process of interior design for a short-term rental specifically that is truly unique. And I think it's finally come where we've executed this enough times that we know what that signature room and that signature look is. We know what the elements of the algorithm are. And I think, it's just the perfect timing that we've really, we're not still figuring it out anymore. We have years now of data that shows when you follow the yellow brick road, you get to the wizard.
Yeah, it's been a really fun process. Yeah, that you're exactly right. Where we're at today was, multiple years, 3 or 4 years of us diving into this, trying to figure this out. I told you, like one of the things that God blessed you with, and you'll admit this, and you told me this, is being able to create a vision, tell a story, and you were able to take that and your design experience. And let's talk a little about the background. I want to dive into how you actually and how we've kind of refined the process of saying, how are we taking these properties and being able to tell a story with them and create an experience when somebody walks into these properties? I want to get into that today, but let's talk about your design experience and then the evolution into short-term rentals, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, the interesting thing is our history of how we got here ties into the question itself of how we create that experience. My mom started this company about 50 years ago, designing thematic nods for hotels, commercial properties and projects. So I literally have spent my entire life traveling all over the world with her doing projects that were basically telling stories. My father passed away when I was very young, so I was raised by a very articulate, very talkative, very colorful and creative mom. So I like to say I speak girl fluently, which is why I think I've been able to be happily married for 25 years. And I have 3 boys, but also 3 girls. All the kids work for the company except for the littles. And it's been an incredible ride. But I think where our company really took a turn was in the early 2000s, we got into model homes for builders all over the United States. And this was the time when I was graduating college and I was touring all over the country speaking and doing different engagements. And my mom was ready to slow down. And she came to me and she said, I want to put this in your hands and go a different direction, like take it. And I said, I don't necessarily think we need to go a different direction. I just think we need to start using all this crazy new technology that was coming out. It's weird because you look back at the early 2000s, technology has evolved so much in the last 25 years of what we're able to do with design. Some of my mom's earliest whiteboards were vellums, where in order to create layers, she drew on a layer and flipped it, and then drew on another one and flipped it. And then when she flipped them all down, you saw a whole room. And then she took away the sofa, and she took away the rug, and she took away. And now we do all that on a computer, right? And so what I figured out with model homes was that most model homes were designed by incredibly talented interior decorators that were given a license to create a beautiful property that would look beautiful in photos. It was just pretty. Architectural Digest. It was magazine quality shots. And everyone would walk into a model home and just go, oh, this is so wonderful. I just wish I could buy the model, right? That's what everybody would say. I just want to buy the model. But what I learned was that builders have an ulterior motive in mind when they're building a home. And that's not that they just want to build your family a home. They want to build a number of families a home in a specific geographical location that has a very specific demographic that is shopping there, a demographic that's driven by income, that's driven by hobbies, that's driven by culture, that's driven by jobs, that's driven by schools, mascots, factors all around that geographical location that trigger an emotional response. And what we learned very early on is that if we could imagine the family that this builder, this subdivision was targeting coming into a location. And instead of just making a house pretty, we actually programmed the house to be full of psychological, if you will, manipulations almost, but psychological connectors that not only were gorgeous to look at, but connected you emotionally to it. Like, wow, it's like these people know me. They know that my kids would want that room for the new high school. They know about my husband's job, and they know about my interests. They know about, like, wow, it's like I'm coming into something about me. You know, oh, it's a highly Indian community. So maybe we slant things toward that color palette and the way we make the house smell when you walk into it. It's like, wow, this is targeting my culture, my genre, right? And we became the experts at creating fake families, of looking at the data, looking at the what made someone become emotional about a property beyond it just being pretty. Okay. And so as the short-term rental dynamic has blossomed out of it being a spare bedroom in your house to people now buying houses that are purely rentals, just like Turo used to be like, oh, I don't drive my car for 5 days. So when I'm not driving it, you can drive it. Just like the guest house. And now people have 50 cars that are all for Turo, right? It's the same thing. So now I see short-term rentals and Turo kind of following a similar path. It used to be if I had a car and it was cheap, people would Turo it and rent it. If I had a house and it was cheap, people would rent it. It didn't really matter if it was experiential or there was an emotional connection. It was like, if you build it, they'll come. If I need a bigger place for my family to stay and I don't want to go to a hotel, I go here. It's simple. But now when you look at Turos, the cruddy, cheap cars that are struggling are just a car. And now everyone's got a Cybertruck and a Porsche and a Ferrari and a souped up SUV. It's like they're tricked out rides that are now the top of the market. And your minivan is $50 a day and hardly worth even doing it anymore. Right. And rental houses have moved into that same vein where now I don't want to just lay my head down somewhere. I want an experience. I want to go to Idaho and stay in a potato. I want to go to Roswell and stay in a UFO. If you look at Airbnb, the houses that are booked out for years in advance are like the Xavier mansion for the X-Men or the Ferrari house or the Polly Pocket house where you wear plastic clothes and stay in a big giant outdoor play toy. It's wild. The Ghostbuster house where you're in a fire station in downtown New York. It's like all of these highly thematic homes book for $6,000, $10,000 a night. And they're booked out for years, right?
Right.
So what you and I have been refining over the last several years is how do we take the change in trend of where we've come from, learning how to understand who the customer is, who the guest is, who the buyer is. Just because your house caters to families doesn't mean a family's making a decision. It's usually one person sitting behind a mouse that's clicking buttons and looking, and there's a whole dossier write-up on who that person is and what they're looking for. And when you understand the person based on the house that you're designing, and you understand the experience that someone has already signed up to come and experience, they already said, I want to come to your town. No matter how obscure it is, they're coming to you. They're looking for you, which means the obscurities of your location, it's the Mickey Mouse of your town. It might be a waterfall. It might be a wine vineyard. It might be Mickey Mouse at Disney World. Whatever that is, every location has a Mickey Mouse. So our job is to help you figure out what that Mickey Mouse is. Yep. It's to figure out how to bring the outside in, that experience into the house, and create the most experiential offering that house can give without breaking the bank and spending the insane amounts of money that it takes to truly create those truly immersive experiences. And that is what I believe our history has led us to here today, with all of our hospitality background of getting all this data to how hospitality thinks, because these are miniature hotels. And then understanding the programming of how to market a property to a customer, not to just make a model home pretty. So we have a saying, we don't want to make model homes. We want to make memorable homes. And there's a lot of times that we meet with Vodyssey clients that already have a property that is beautiful, designed by a great designer, but completely forgettable because it looks like 80% of the other listings out there that don't make me stop and go, now that's an experience I want to get into.
Absolutely. And it's a great background already. And the evolution of this business has been that. It's like, hey, listen, at first, just having a property, right? At first, really, Airbnb was couch surfing. When I got into short-term rentals and bought my first one, and it was by accident that I started actually even renting it out on the weekends. It was a cabin that Teresa and I bought as a second home, right? As a vacation home. And it was, like you said, it was something that we had that we weren't using all the time. And we thought, we'll put it on Craigslist and the local classifieds and rent it out on the weekends, right? And that was what we did. And then this business started to evolve into, like a lot of it was couch surfing in urban areas with Airbnb. Then it moved to, okay, if you have a vacation home in a destination and you're not using it on certain weekends, throw it on there and get some extra income when you're not using it. And then it becomes, okay, now I've got to be a professional host, and professional host immediately, myself included, in the late, 15, 16, 17, 18, that time frame, even though we were always in the experience business, many of us didn't realize that. And we actually could raise the bar by putting what we call forgettable experiences out there with model homes. We would go and we would look, because that was all we knew how to do, right? We would go and say, at the top of the market, it looked like these beautiful model homes, and the consumer was flocking to them because not very many people were doing. Most of them were grandma's cabin using, yard sale furniture or whatever else you had that you didn't want in your house, right? That's how it, and then it became these model homes. And then COVID hit, and the model homes, everybody started putting model homes out. So as demand skyrocketed, so did supply. But the supply at the top of the market, people were buying these homes as investments, and their only knowledge was, how do I just furnish this with, like you say, they have these beautiful interior designers, and they would hire them or have the skill sets to put them together like model homes. And we forgot about the business we were really in, which is the experience business. And outside of, okay, these are still investments. And, some of these homes that you're mentioning that are these fully immersive type of experiences that are booked years in advance, that all sounds great, but there's a price tag to that as well, right? And it's big to go, you might spend $300,000 to $500,000 on a property and then go spend another $300,000 to $500,000 creating those types of experiences.
Some of those experiences are insanely expensive.
And so we're saying, okay, that's not also for everybody, although it's awesome and those properties are amazing. How can we actually understand how to deliver this experience, and then going back. And this is why I think you're so brilliant at this, and why you and it's not, I mean, these are learned skill sets. This is, you've been doing this since you were, knee high with your mom, but understanding that skill set of saying, okay, who is the target audience? What experience can I sell to them? But also, who are the decision makers in that? And you understand demographically, okay, over 70% of bookings are made by the woman. Even if it's a guy's trip, a lot of times their wives or girlfriends are booking it for them. And so you're like, okay, how do I attract and speak to that person? Like you say, hey, I'm really good at speaking girl, right? There's an element of because the majority of bookings are made by women, and you understand who's making that experience or that booking and what's important to them. But also on the flip side, what's important to the different demographics within, and you put elements of that throughout it. And like you said, it's almost the way you're dialing this in. And I want to talk about that. But if I'm sitting here listening and saying, okay, I get it, Mike, Shawn, I'm sold. We're in the experience business, not the property business. We don't need to beat that horse dead. I have this property. It looks like a model home. It's a beautiful home. We see this all the time. You see it all the time. I see it all the time. And it's struggling. And they're saying, okay, the market must be bad. And we look at it, both of us, and say, man, you got a good property in a good area. You're just not telling the story. You've got this forgettable home. You don't have a memorable home. And how will we go about that outside of saying, hey, go spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to create this crazy experience and custom build all this stuff? How do we say, okay, I want to deliver this experience. I want to articulate this experience. I want to speak to my target audience and create this memorable home. Where do I start? How do I create that vision? What are some of the elements involved in telling that story?
Yeah. So we look at every house as a novel. And the title of the house is the title of our story. It's always funny to me how much work people put into naming their property, and they beta test it with 1 million people. And what do you think? What do you think? It literally doesn't matter. No one's ever actually searching for your house by name, right?
Yep.
The title of your house should be the governor of your story. I have worked with so many people. I remember one client, they were calling their house like the Buffalo Nickel or something like that. And I started getting into the dynamics of the house, and I'm like, oh, so there are buffalo nearby? They're like, no, not within like 1,000 miles. I was like, oh, okay. What's the deal? Like, oh, the guy who used to own this house was a hunter. He killed a big buffalo. It was too big to move, so it's sitting in the great room. And so we're just designing the name of the house around this big buffalo. And I was like, all right, well, what's let's talk about the experience. Oh, we're in Lake Tahoe. Oh, okay. So Lake Tahoe, and we're going to market a house about buffaloes, which sounds like you're looking at a house in Montana or Wyoming,
right?
Some type of plain experience. So instead of leaning into the reason people are coming to Lake Tahoe and resonating that back to them in all the visuals that they see, we're going to create a story around something boutique that has nothing to do with the emotional connection that anyone has to location. So the first thing that you got to realize is you're telling a story with your listing, and there has to be something that governs the story. And that typically is the title. The way that we get to a title is by looking at the chapters. A chapter is defined as an area in the house that you can stand in the middle of, turn 360 degrees, and not counting looking down corridors or in open doorways. Everything that you see is a chapter, which means that if I have a 3-bedroom house that has a den, kitchen, and a dining room, then I have 3-bedroom chapters, a kitchen den chapter, and a dining room chapter. So that house has 5 interior chapters, and I might have a back patio or an under the house thing, a basement, something that might be a 6th chapter. So the first thing I'm doing is saying, all right, I have, in this particular case, a 5-chapter house. Now, I can go to TripAdvisor, I can go to Travelocity, I can go to all these different places and go, what are the top reasons that people are coming here? So many times we do consults with people and they say, I want to do something different. I don't want to be like everybody else. I have a beach house, but I don't want my house to look like a beach house. I want it to look like something to it. And I go, that's crazy, because When people come to Disney World, they don't go to Disney World and say, but I don't want a Disney experience. I want a Universal experience. I want something different at Disney World. And fun fact, the most expensive suite at Disney World, do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
It's Cinderella's Castle. It's $6,000 to $20,000 a night, depending on the season, and you get to stay in the castle. Now, when I talk to people about creating a story, and I talk to them about, hey, every story has the chapter, and every chapter has the elements of a thematic gesture and a pop of color that supports the theme. So we're creating a themed house. They go, oh, that's repulsive to me. I would never do a themed house. I don't like, oh, that sounds so kitschy and cheesy and awful. And my clients are high end. High-end clients don't like cheesy. Well, it's really interesting because we talked earlier about the Ghostbuster house, the potato house, booked out years in advance, cost a fortune to make. So they cost $6,000 to $20,000 a night to rent. The Cinderella's Castle is the #1 booked suite in all of Disney, $6,000 to $20,000 a rent. These are the most immersive, highly themed, over-the-top rentals on the planet. And does it sound like the average white collar or even blue collar American is buying those? No, these are wealthy, to-do, high-end individuals that are used to luxury, accommodations, great things, and they're paying crazy dollars to be immersed in theme. So,
Yep.
How do we take this thing and say, well, we don't want to cater to just the rich. Let's Robin Hood this thing. Let's make this idea available to everybody. So we actually started this with a Harry Potter house, is what really got us thinking down these lines. The request was to make this feel super authentic. So we actually went to a Harry Potter live exhibit show, and it was overwhelming. There's chairs falling from the ceiling. There's bins of stuff everywhere, and pots and books and wand boxes and hats and scarves and clothes and all this crazy weird cabinetry and all this. And it's like, man, this is going to cost a fortune to try to create all of this. So then we came up with the idea, well, what if instead of actually installing all of these things on the wall, like what I call TGI Fridays effect, right? Where it's just layered memorabilia or the Planet Hollywood vibe. What if we just did creative wallpapers or giant format pieces of art that had all of this imagery on it, but we did it in a way that it had shadowing and depth and texture and shading, that it looked like when you looked at it in a photograph, it was there. And then we realized that we could even, in that giant imagery, make it look like you were looking into other rooms, into other dimensions. Then we started realizing we could make these things look like windows and put trim around them and make it literally go on a blank wall and throw a window on there that was looking out into Hogwarts and looking out. And then all of a sudden we're designing rooms that are transporting you into a whole nother realm, all with these big, large format pieces. We got away from the wallpaper because that took prepping a wall. It took finding installers, they peels, this, that, and the other. And we ended up landing on these 4x8 foot sheets of large format printing that we could stack as many of those together up or down to create these giant mural scenes on 1/4-inch thick PVC that is like a giant credit card. It's impenetrable. It's commercial grade, can go indoors, outdoors. And now we're building these whole walls of these 3D effects. Then what we realized is we could take this PVC and we could die cut or contour cut images out of the PVC and layer those images on top of images to create now these 3-dimensional effects, where now if I did a Harry Potter room, I could do the background where it looks like a game of Quidditch is being played. And then I can die cut Harry Potter and mount him 2 inches off the back of that. Then I can make it even cooler and put some LED strip lights behind that where he's glowing. And then I can mount a golden snitch up here in a corner. And then I can mount Malfoy chasing him. And now what would have just been something from Etsy that everybody else has, something from Universal that everyone else has, something from Home Goods or whatever that everybody else has. Now we've got a custom piece of art That's this incredible depth background that looks like you're looking out into the void of Hogwarts, and characters in the foreground flying and backlit LEDs. And now this one room with just a few pieces of plastic is being fully transformed with depth and dimension. And I can do that same TGI Fridays effect with all these artifacts and trinkets all layered, and literally stick 3 pieces of plastic on the wall. And it looks like I spent thousands of dollars curating all these items. And when I photograph it, it looks real. It looks like it's all there. And so now I let the walls do this massive theming, but to avoid the cheesiness in the Harry Potter example, I don't go now down to my bed and my rug and all my accents and go, all right, now I'm going to do a Harry Potter rug. I'm going to do Harry Potter sheets. I'm going to do a Harry Potter blanket. I'm going to do a Harry Potter pillow. Then I'm going to throw pillows on top of it, stuffed animals. And then I'm going to do Harry Potter toilet paper. And now it's like, now it's getting cheesy. The key to not being cheesy is to now take the color, a pop of color from that background. So let's say we use this Quidditch example and Harry's wearing the red robe and he's flying. So I go, well, I want that maroony red to be my pop of color. And I'm going to accentuate that with him in the 3-dimensional background. And now I'm going to do red throw pillows, a red blanket or runner at the foot of the bed. I'm going to do a rug that pops that red and gold tone into it. And then I'm just going to put one theme pillow on the bed that ties Harry Potter into the bed. And then I'm going to put an emotion driver, which is like a word pillow that says adventure, explore, relax, or something that when I now look at the photo of the room, instead of seeing just another beautiful, bland, monochromatic, well-decorated room, I see an adventure. And because I've now figured out how to do that by just using combinations of color, a theme pillow, an emotion driver, and gigantic large format artwork, I can now afford to do this in every room of the house. And what's really interesting is a lot of times when we're presenting this to families or couples, it'll be a mom who at first will be like, oh my gosh, I would never do that in my own home. Well, I agree. I don't do that in my home either. Right? I'm in Dallas. I don't walk down the hallway and have giant 3-dimensional murals of downtown Dallas walking down my hallway. But if I was doing an STR here, I absolutely would. And the hardest thing for a lot of couples to get over, especially when they're doing their very first STR, is the realization this is not your house. Right. This is a lifestyle asset that you get to go and enjoy, but this is a business. And you're either going to cater it to the yous of the world, which, believe it or not, is the minority, or you're going to cater it to the 80% masses, which means knowing what the 80% masses are coming to your area for, knowing what the 80% masses are emotionally excited about interacting with, and then feeding it to them. Yep. And the thing about what makes that now marketable is the photography. This is all about the photos. And what makes a good photo is contrast, depth. And when you have the colors and you have the theme and you have the contrast and you have the depth and you have the story and it repeats itself over and over and over and over again throughout the entire property, now you have something that's really special. And that same mom that at first was like, and I don't know if I'd be interested, now she's looking at it going, oh my gosh, my son is going to love this room. Oh my gosh, my kids are going to, oh my gosh, I guess, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be so happy with this place. Yeah. And we were able to achieve it at such a low cost by using the walls to tell the story and just a bunch of colored pillows and blankets and rugs and poofs that now it's affordable, that the everyday guest can afford to get this extreme experience. So now when you go and look at all these listings and you see all these beautiful monochromatic model homes, and in the same price range, I get this fully immersive UFO house in Roswell. What's going to get booked first?
I mean, yeah,
it's right. Easy peasy.
Yeah. And watching even just listening to you talk about it, right? This has been an evolution that you've really refined, iterated, made changes, and really perfected really the last year. Even my cherry log property, we took that property and we said, we took it on as a challenge and on a podcast and said, hey, listen, we're going to go into a very crowded market. We're going to buy a property and we're going to become the number one property in that market revenue wise. And we did that, right? Within a year, we became the number one revenue property. You absolutely designed that with this amazing experience, but it's even like raised the bar since that property that many people have like seen because of that case study. And it's not when, like, we hear a lot of people say, hey, listen, I don't want, and you touched on it, I'm not into, like, I don't want this cheesy experience. There's nothing cheesy about this. We will post a lot of our signature properties in the show notes so you guys can look at it. And it's being able to tell the story, articulate it with all this crazy custom artwork that Mike and his team do. I mean, it's unreal how you really do it. I mean, I've never seen anybody do it. Nobody. I
don't think anyone else is doing it. I've not seen another designer of any kind doing what we're doing anywhere.
No,
and it's cool.
And like, we have what we call our 1% club, just so you know, and that's the top property in the market. To qualify for the 1% club, you got to be in the top 1% of your market. The majority of these are the number one revenue properties in their market in over 80 markets across the country. 98% of them, I'm leaving 2% out there because I don't know one of them that is not doing this. And so, you know, success leaves clues when we do this, but it's bringing the storytelling aspect in this crazy, you know, artistic way of being able to, you know, create this vision, tell the story, but then bringing the design elements, like you said, you can't just throw up Harry Potter on everything you touch, right? You're going to tell this story, and then you're going to bring this professional design and bring out these pops of color, tie it all together where it's very congruent. And that might be, well, like you say, one chapter of a story, right? A book has multiple chapters, and every room is its own chapter. That's the other thing that I love about what you do. Every room you go into in the Harry Potter house is not Harry Potter. Like, it's not all the same, is what I mean. There might be, like, the Harry Potter book has multiple stories within the story and multiple elements, and you tell that story throughout. And you're saying, like you say, I'm in a beach community. I think or I'm in Orlando. I don't want to tell the Disney story. I don't want to tell this story because I think a lot of times naturally people think that's my way of standing out. I'm going to stand out by doing something different. And the argument is, listen, that's why people are coming to the area. Why not be able to articulate and tell the story and create an experience different than everybody else is doing?
Just tell the story better. Yeah. And there's some people that might be listening to this going, okay, well, I'm at a beach. I don't have Harry Potter. So how am I supposed to do all this crazy stuff at a beach house, right? It's very simple. Sunrises are yellow in tone. Yeah. So it's really easy to show an incredible and amazing sunrise with all these yellow pops of color, where you can backlight different elements of lighthouses, different elements of birds, different elements of waves, different elements, even if you're not backlighting anything, just huge, large format scenes popping yellow. And then you have yellow pillows, yellow blankets, yellow poofs, and then bringing in natural colors with the rugs and things, creating that professional color pop design with a very yellow background. Then you go into the next room and it's a sunset room, and sunsets are typically orange in nature. Yeah. So now we have orange pillows, orange rug, orange blanket, big orange landscapes that are happening in there. And again, you can strategically backlight this. We have orange rooms where it's sunset, and then on the side is a giant private fishing vessel, and you see the line going out, and then there's a die-cut marlin flying off the page. And it's like, oh, it's sunset and sport fishing. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now I'm telling the sport fishing part of it. Now I've got an orange room. Now I've got a yellow room. Now I go to another room down the way, and hey, this is just coastlines where I've got the little coastal fence, the sand dune fence, and I got dunes, and I got the little path going out to the water and a couple palm trees and this beautiful blue sky. And now everything's popping blue, and I've got this big thing. Then I go into my one more room, And I just do palm trees, and just behind the bed, it's just nothing but palms. There's palms all over the place, and it's green. So now I've got a room that's this beautiful sage green with all these palms. I've got a room that's this beautiful blue with the sand dunes and the sand and the ocean and the sky. I've got another room that's fishing at sunset. And then I've got another room that's lighthouses at sunrise. Now I've got a yellow room, a green room, a blue room, an orange room. Then I make it my way into the living room where I pop another pop in there. And now again, when I'm looking through all these listings and people go, wow, I don't just want to lean into cliche beach stuff because that's what everybody does. Exactly. We're going to do what everybody does, but in a completely unique, fully encompassing experience. So it's still the reason people are coming there. But now where everyone else's listing is gray and light blue and jute and natural and boring, yours is vibrant and colorful, and every room telling a story. And then you take all those chapters, in this case, sport fishing, lighthouse, sunsets, sunrises, sand dunes, and you put that together and go, all right, if these are the chapters of my story, what would be a good name that governs this chapter? Like Sandy Shores Escape, Emerald Coast Getaway, and it's like, these are all the things that define the Emerald Coast. These are all the things that define that sandy shore. These are all the things that define that area. And now your house title governs your story. Then we make these really cool storybook covers, what we call that we turn into coasters that are marketing all through the house. And it's just marketing, 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 marketing. And that is the key to this success. So I know we have limited time and limited window for this first edition. But I think the key takeaway here is very simple. If you want to stand out, don't avoid the reason that people are coming here. Lean into it, but lean into it at a grand scale using unique things to put them on your walls. And then don't go fully cheesy with it. Pop it with pops of color. Figure out what all your chapters are, give each chapter a theme, give each chapter a pop, stick to that and go room by room by room, and then come back, give it a title. And the most overwhelming part of this is, well, where do I get all that stuff? And the answer is you join Vodyssey and then you talk to me, and that's how you get it. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. And it's exactly, and I like what we'll do, you guys, in the show notes. So we'll post a bunch of signature properties. We'll post the beach house. We'll post, some downtown houses. Mike just did one in Nashville, and bring in that, the city elements to life, the sports themes to life. We'll post one on the Bourbon Trail. So we'll post some different properties that tell different stories, because everybody's like, well, that might work in Disney, right? That might work here. Well, like I promise you, it works everywhere. Exactly. And there's always three things. If you want to have great success in this game, or if you're struggling, you're missing on one of these three things. The first one is the right property in the right location. The second is what we're talking about today, is creating a unique experience and being able to articulate that and deliver that experience. That's what Mike is helping set up. And then the third is marketing and being able to articulate that to the masses, right? But to be honest, everything Mike is talking about does 95% of the heavy lifting on the marketing side, right? If you don't dial
now, you're just taking a picture of it.
Right. And they build upon one another, right? If you don't have the right property in the right area, it doesn't matter what Mike does, right? If the potential's not there, you overpaid for the acquisition price and the revenue potential is not there in your market, whatever that is, whatever that element is, or you're not in the right area, it doesn't matter what Mike does. You're probably not going to make money. So dial that in first. Second, do this. And this is going to give you a 5 to 7 year run before you probably have to do anything else. And you can make a lot of money in 5 to 7 years before you have to update these properties. And then ultimately understanding marketing. Everybody wants to rush to marketing, right? And being able to say, oh, listen, I've got this good property, and they skip this stage of the game. And again, if they skip that middle stage, you're going to struggle. We're in the experience business. If you don't put together and deliver an experience, how the heck are you going to articulate it? It doesn't matter how great you are at marketing, right? You're articulating a model home, and everybody has model homes, and it's a forgettable experience, just like Mike said. So guys, we're going to wrap it up today. Mike, I know we're pointing because I know Mike's the founder, CEO of Wind Development, been doing this for a long time. You guys can look Mike up there. I know you're super busy with our Vodyssey family, and we very much appreciate that. Is there anywhere else we want to point anybody to?
It sounds like so stupid to say this, but we are so focused on the Vodyssey community that we've scaled teams after teams after teams to handle what we're doing inside of Vodyssey. Our properties stand out as you can literally look at a property and go, that's a Vodyssey property. And we really don't stray too far outside of that. Even a lot of the services we provide for the giant format art and stuff like that, we don't give public access to that without going through the Vodyssey algorithm. And again, that's not even as much as saying, oh, we're so loyal to Vodyssey that's all we do. It's Vodyssey's membership has become a control mechanism for us to not be overwhelmed. Because if we just went out and did our own podcast and taught the world how to do this, we would have more business than we can handle trying to facilitate getting this to everybody. But then subsequently, the Vodyssey algorithm, if you will, starts to become accessible without learning all of the other components to it. Because just like you said, all these parts go with each other. There's another way to look at that is you can do all of this right with me, use all the theme, get all the color, get everything right. But then if you don't understand how to photograph, promote, and give this story to the rest of the world, then it also will fall flat. And so the reason that I talk so much about Vodyssey is not because I get derive any financial benefit from someone joining Vodyssey, or because I'm part of the company, your company or business in any way in some monetary or financial capacity. It's because when I work with a client that has been trained in the Vodyssey methodology, they do everything right. And I don't have to waste hours and days and weeks of pain and suffering trying to convince someone to do something, because they've gone through a training platform that not only trains, but gives them relational access to thousands of other people to see success stories, testimonials, and data that supports the why. So when I go outside of Vodyssey and work with someone, it's like beating my face against a brick wall where I've now got to do the work of Vodyssey to convince the client of the why and give them all the reasoning, when it's just so much easier to just work with people that are being trained in the correct way to do everything. So it's not that we're trying to say, oh, we're hiding ourselves away from the world, this, that, and the other. We're able to do more, be more, and give more when we're working with clients that understand why they're doing what they're doing and what it's going to give them to do it. And I'll be honest, as many times as we've tried to deviate outside of people calling and saying, well, would you just take care of me? And we do it. They're miserable experiences, and they don't go all the way. They don't market it correctly. And then they spend all this money and it doesn't go anywhere. So we stay very intimately inside the Vodyssey network for the number one reason, selfish reason, of we get great clients that do the right thing, and then they have all the success they're looking for. And when everyone is successful, everyone is happy, and then we make lots of friends, and we don't have a bunch of disgruntled people saying, well, I did what you said and it didn't work. Well, you did what I said, but you didn't do anything else. And it's a three-legged stool. You have to have that right property. It's got to have the right experience. And then you got to tell the world about it. And I tell people all the time, there are way better interior decorators than me or our team, way better interior decorators. But there's nobody I know that's better at programming an experience in a short-term rental. And I think the only reason we're so good at that is because I think we've probably done more properties than anyone on the planet, which means we've had the opportunity to fail more than anyone at the planet. And because we're smart and we learn from our failures, we've made thousands of mistakes that our clients now get to bypass. And that's what Vodyssey teaches all the way through the process on getting the right property and marketing it. And that's what we're able to do with the design component on the inside of that. So I guess this is turning not for a plug of Win Development, but a plug of join Vodyssey. Look at more details for that. And you get access to guys like me, but in every facet of the business, from the financing to the finding of the properties to the design, and then to the marketing and the photography. And then it's a yellow brick road that leads to Oz. It's very simple.
Yeah, I love it. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you saying that. And I do think what you mentioned too, where we hear all the time, even from people who are not in Vodyssey yet, and we talk to them and they're thinking about joining, they say it's pretty obvious that when I look in a market, I can see Vodyssey properties. And when somebody says a Vodyssey property, it's, Mike is putting it together, those properties, and telling the story and being able to create these stories and visions.
They stand out.
Like he's talking. And it is obvious, right? We call them our signature properties. And so we will post those. We'll wrap up today, but we're going to post those. So I want you guys, if you're listening and you're interested, just to visually go check out these listings, and you'll know exactly what Mike's been talking about and why we're so excited, because the majority of these properties will be posted. Also, go look on AirDNA. They're the top properties revenue-wise in their markets, and there's a reason, right? And so it's not just pretty looking properties. These are investments that are way outperforming the market. And so, and that's why, again, why at the end of the day, why we're doing this. So guys, we're going to wrap up today. This is not going to be the only conversation. We'll bring Mike on. Mike might be just a regular guest with me here on Experts Corner, because this stuff is important. Again, this is, like I said, these are investments. We are trying to operate at the top of the market, get our unfair share of business. And this is a key component of getting our unfair share of business. So I know how valuable your time is. I always appreciate you joining us and spending it with us. At the end of every episode, I ask you two favors. The first one is, if you like the show, share it. I don't run ads or sponsorships, so the only way this show grows is if you share it. If you know other people that would like to walk into the short-term rental game with their eyes wide open, share the show. I very much appreciate it. If you have more than 30 seconds, like it or review it. Those things are appreciated as well. And the final, most important thing I ask you at the end of every episode is to pick that one thing you can do today. Start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.